Well, I just had a scare this morning and had to laugh at myself as well. So I thought you guys might want to hear about it. I was riding my bike into work this morning, and I live in a neighborhood that is known for its gang violence. It's a Latin neighborhood. The cross street nearest to me is actually the second worst cross street in Hillsborough County when it comes to the number of people who have been run down in traffic. And the reason for that is twofold. One, because I live in an area where there are a lot of hotheads driving way too fast. And the second thing is that there's also an assisted living facility, one of those retirement communities with mobile homes across the street. And so all of those frail elderly people have to cross 4 lanes of traffic to get to the grocery store. Actually, it's just a little convenience store. So there's a lot of injuries that happen there. And for some reason, I guess it's just that mentality, a lot of people in my neighborhood let cats run loose on the streets. In fact, Lucifer is a street cat. And maybe all those people have the same problem that Lucifer has, which is that he just is a freaking escape artist and you cannot keep that cat inside. But at any rate, I'm tooling along on my bicycle this morning, and I'm coming up on Northbridge Boulevard, which is the main drag through the neighborhood. And I'm listening to StoryBrand podcasting about leadership skills, and I'm really into it, but I see something moving in my peripheral vision, and it's a black cat running from the street into the side street where I am. And so I start giving the cat heck for being close to the main road and telling them to go back home and to stay out of the street and doing all of that. And as I look back to where the cat had run from, I see there's a cat laying in the road. And so I'm just like, my heart just stops because the cat is just like flat on the road. And so I come up, and as I get closer, I can see, because the cat's pointing toward me, that his head is up and his eyes are open, and they're looking just like totally, you know, huge dilated pupils and just staring straight ahead. But it's like, oh my God, this cat's alive. And so this is where it gets funny, because I don't catch cats in the wild. I'm not one of those people who goes out and traps feral cats or has any kind of experience with domestic cats. My experience is with bobcats and wildcats, and that experience tells me if you miss grabbing them, that first launch that you make toward them, if you miss or let go, you are never getting that chance again. So I hop off my bike, I run around behind the cat, and he's laying like he's like a foot into the road. And so I'm looking both ways, you know, making sure there's no traffic coming. And if this was on a Monday, that cat would have been dead. But thankfully it's a Sunday and there's not as much traffic, especially not coming in the direction in the lane that he was in. So I go sneaking up around behind the cat, and as I'm coming in, I'm getting closer and closer, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make one grab for this cat's scruff, and I've gotta make it good. And I go in for the grab, and as I grab him by the scruff, he whips his head around and he's looking like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, poor thing, he's just dazed. And so I don't want him in the road, and so I scoop a hand up underneath him and pick him up, and he's just like completely limp. There's just like picking up liver. He's just totally, it feels like he's just been crushed. And my heart just went out to the little guy. So I cuddle him up and I take him into one of the neighbors' yards there so that I'm out in the grass with him. And I'm all hunched down over the top of him to make sure that he doesn't try to squirm away or anything. And I'm looking for blood, and I see one of the ears is crushed down. But the more I'm looking at it, I see that it's just because he's been like a neighborhood cat that's had some injuries. And buried down in his fur, I find a collar, and so I'm going through the collar trying to see if there's any kind of contact information. Meanwhile, I'm also, while I'm doing all of this, I'm texting Howie and saying, hey, where are you? Can you come help me? He's a long way away playing tennis. So I call Catherine, hey, can you come help me? And with Catherine, before I made the call through, you know, I dialed her, but I hadn't actually contacted her. Car pulls up, and the guy's Latin, and so his English is kind of broken, but he says something about the cat, and I said, yeah, I think the cat's been hit by a car. And he said, no, that's my cat. And I said, well, I think your cat's been hit by a car. And he said, where did you find the cat? And I said, I found the cat in the middle of the street here. And when I picked him up, he's just completely loose. And he said, as he's getting out of his car now and coming toward me to get the cat, he says, well, the cat's blind. I took him to the vet because we didn't know what was wrong with him. And the vet said that the cat was blind. And so he's so old, there's just nothing that they can do about it. And he managed to get away from us. And he said, I've been looking everywhere for him. And so he reaches down and he picks up the cat and he's like, Francis, I'm so happy I found you. And the cat just, you could see the cat was just like so totally relieved to recognize the guy's voice and his touch. And he said the cat always feels like that because he's so timid about his environment. So he had not been hit by a car. He was just blind and just really, really lucky not to get hit. So that was my morning. So if you ever see an animal injured on the side of the road, be sure and stop. Make sure that if they are alive, they get help, or that they're not laying there suffering. And by the way, this is not Francis in the photo. This is a stand-in for Francis that I found on the internet. Francis looked about the same, except that he had one little crushed ear, and he was laying on a paved road, not a brick road. Hope you have a wonderful Sunday. My Sunday, I don't think I need any more coffee. I think we're good for the day. Bye.